This exam question is from an A-level psychology paper 1 from the biological psychology section, which deals with addictive drugs, recreational drugs, which is not in the international A-level specification. However, this question is really a discuss question, an 8-marker, about correlational research methods and how they can be applied to a particular scenario that's given here. And so a very similar question could be asked for international A-level psychology too. So Janelle wants to find out about recreational drug use and early childhood experiences. She's decided to focus on nicotine, and she intends to see how often people use nicotine and find out about any negative life experiences they had during early childhood. She thinks more negative life experiences, then more nicotine will be used. So discuss how Janelle could use a correlational research. Now, discuss questions are always 4 marks of AO1 and 4 marks of AO2. If we look at this mark scheme here, you can see what's not perhaps immediately obvious from the question, that half of those marks are for knowledge of correlational research that has nothing to do with Janelle or the scenario or recreational drugs. So it's things like correlational research measures 2 variables from each participant, plots them on a scatter graph, looks for strong and weak correlations. So just that general knowledge of correlations, and that will always be true of discuss questions, forms half of the marks. And it's probably a good idea to write a whole paragraph, maybe even 2 paragraphs, maybe aim for most of a side of writing that's just sharing your general knowledge before you go into the AO2, which is linking it to the scenario. So how could Janelle actually use these techniques? Well, she could measure nicotine through how many cigarettes people smoke per day. She could have a questionnaire about their early experiences. She could use a scatter diagram and say exactly what she would plot and so on. Now, the examiner report gives us a really good answer, but it has gone straight into talk about Janelle. So it hasn't followed that advice I've just given of talking about correlational research separately from Janelle, but it has picked up almost all the marks available. I'll just read it quickly. Janelle would want to operationalize the covariables that will be investigated. Janelle could measure recreational drug use by how many times per week the participants take recreational drugs, specifically nicotine. Furthermore, Janelle could operationalize the negative early life experiences by interviewing the participants and carrying out thematic analysis, counting how many times themes of negative life experiences come up. These covariables can then be compared in the way of testing the direction of their relationship. This can be done by plotting a scatter graph with number of times nicotine is taken per week on the y-axis and the number of themes of negative life experiences that come up in the interview on the x-axis. Janelle will then plot a line of best fit. This line of best fit will indicate the same direction of the relationship. If it shows the number of times nicotine is used per week goes up alongside the increase in amount of themes of negative life experiences, this will display a positive correlation between the 2 covariables. Furthermore, nice linking statement, Janelle could study the strength of the relationship between the covariables. This could be done by finding the line of best fit and its angle. The closer the result is to plus or minus 1, the stronger the relationship between recreational drug use and negative early life experiences is. Now that bit isn't particularly clearly explained, but they're on the right lines overall here. Finally, Janelle would use Spearman's rank correlation coefficient to find out the significance of the results. Really good, strong point to finish on, some inferential statistics. If Janelle used 20 participants and found a value of greater than 0.612, the relationship between recreational drug use and negative life experiences would be significant. So they've found that obviously from the table at the front of the paper, which was a really nice idea. So 7 marks out of the 8 available given here, which is a really high mark for this kind of question. And they've got all of the marks available for the AO2, which if we come back to the mark scheme, that means that they've got into this level 4 For the AO2, which is the application to Janelle, and the examiner's comment talks about these things. Now, it might not be immediately obvious that there's competing arguments there, but really that just means that there's lots of different ideas presented. They don't need to draw conclusions. They don't need to evaluate. There's no AO3 marks here. So that was a good approach to the question. They could have just maybe put in a little bit more of that separate AO1 knowledge of correlational research.